Hey, friends, welcome to Real Talk with PK. So glad that you are tuning in. This week is the 4th of July, so I want to wish everyone a happy 4th and our nation and its founding. So, as we celebrate our freedom this week, just enjoy your time with your friends and your family and your community that you're a part of, hopefully, here at Crosspoint Community Church. And so glad that you're tuning in. Today, we're going to have a very special guest with me. And I thought since we're celebrating the 4th in America, that I would interview Todd, Pastor Todd, who is our campus pastor. And maybe you don't know this, but he served in our military services, the Air Force, for 18 years, retired from that, and then came over to Crosspoint Community Church with us here to work. And so I'm excited to have him today to interview him and maybe find out some things about him that you don't know. So, without any further ado, I want to welcome to this side of the camera,
Right?
Pastor Todd. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. Yeah,
it's different. That you're
it's
on this
different
side.
being here sitting
Yeah.
on this side. You
I
don't have to
know.
sit there and
Yep.
keep track of everything, keep pushing buttons and that stuff. Instead,
Yep.
we enlisted my daughter to
Yep.
do that today.
Mackenzie's helping us behind the camera today, so thank you for that. So we could interview PT. And so, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Service was great today. Brooke did an awesome job.
Yeah, we are
for
taping
today.
on Sunday since it's a holiday. We won't be here on Wednesday. So we wanted to tape early, but yeah, today's service was amazing. We had a great time.
Yeah, it
didn't we?
was. Yeah.
She did a fantastic job. So let's get into you. You grew up in a loving family, both parents. I think your dad served in the military.
He did. He
correct?
was in the Air Force as well, yeah. And my uncle, his brother, was in the Air Force. My grandfather on my mom's side was in the Navy during World War II, and my grandfather on my dad's side was in the Army during World War II. He was actually
Wow.
a prisoner of war in Germany.
Wow.
And then my grandpa on my mom's side was actually on a aircraft carrier in the Pacific that got kamikazed.
Really?
Yes, he was one of, I think, 60 some survivors on
Holy
the
cow.
aircraft carrier.
So you got the military life is
Yeah,
through
it
your
was
whole
kind
entire
of
family.
in my veins.
Yeah, for sure. Did your dad? How long did he serve? Did he go
My
to
dad
Vietnam?
only served 4 years. He was in and out of Vietnam. He flew on he was actually a jet engine mechanic in the Air Force
I didn't
on
know
heavy
that.
cargo aircraft. He also worked on the F-4 fighter a little bit, and then C-5s and B-52s as well.
Okay.
So he was actually, a little bit of history for my dad. With my dad is he was actually on the first C-5 a Galaxy, one of the big cargo planes that ever flew
Oh.
when it made its initial flight.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's awesome. So it's in your veins. It's in your family, your
Yep.
DNA.
Yep.
You're originally from Oregon.
Originally from Oregon.
West
Yep.
side of our nation, and beautiful out there. Been there a couple of times. It's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah,
The
it's-
scenery. People don't realize that, but the West Coast Drive along the Pacific in Oregon is sometimes some people say, or a lot of times people say that it's prettier coast than California, actually.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's completely different than the East Coast. East Coast, you have
Yeah.
a lot of sandy beaches, whereas the West Coast, a lot of rocky cliffs, and
Right.
you got a little bit rougher water and stuff like that. But it's beautiful. You can't the vistas. You just can't.
Yeah, you can't. beat it.
There's nothing like it,
Right.
at least in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to interview you because I think you got a great story. So tell us, how did you, since, I mean, your family all served, did you feel called to do that after high school days? Did you enlist after high school?
I did. I enlisted actually while I was still about the end of my senior years when I started the enlistment process.
Okay.
My dad had to sit down with me. I was working at a grocery store at the time, going to school and working part-time. And he's like, listen, my parents told me, hey, we'll pay for your college if you want to go to college. Well, I knew at that time, at least,
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily want to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that if I went, I would be wasting their money. I'd be partying it away.
Yeah.
So, I decided, well, let me go talk to the recruiter. And so I went down and I actually talked to the Navy recruiter first, and ended up.
Do you want to be a pilot?
No, actually, at first I went to the Navy trying to get a job as a Navy SEAL.
Really?
But yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, it was something I wanted to do. But then talking to friends, family, my parents, and that stuff, I was better off going into the Air Force.
Yeah.
So we decided, as a group, kind of that Air Force it'd be. And so I went into the Air Force, or I went and enlisted while I was right before I graduated, actually, but didn't actually leave until January of the following year for basic training.
And where was that?
But that was in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, which you would think Texas, January, not too bad. It was freezing cold.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it snowed during my basic training in San Antonio, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that down by Mexico?
Yep.
I've never been there, but my wife has, but I've never been there.
It was cold though. But
wow.
Yeah. So it kind of went along the lines. My dad, like I said, sat me down and said, "Listen, you're not gonna just stay working at the grocery store. That's not gonna do it. That's not gonna be a good career path for you.
Right.
You kind of need to figure something out.
Right.
And so that's where I knew I didn't want to go to college, and it was like, you know what, I was always enamored by the Air Force and stuff like that. Like when I was younger, my uncle was still in. My uncle was a career Air Force man. He retired as a E9.
Wow, that's the highest you
after
can get,
30,
isn't it?
I think it was 30 years, 28 or 30 years.
Is it E9 the highest? That's what I thought.
Yeah, in the enlisted ranks. So he retired, but while he was in some of the bases he was at and that stuff, we would go visit him, and he would take us on tours around the base. And like right after Desert Storm, he was at McClellan Air Force Base, which is in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, San Antonio, Sacramento, California.
Okay.
And he took us on a tour, me and my sister and my dad and some of my cousins. But they did it was a repair facility for some of the fighters. Like the major repair facility for the A-10 fighter or A-10 aircraft, F-16s, F-15s, and the F-117, the stealth fighter, which we didn't get to see at the time.
A-10s, are those the Warthogs?
A-10 Warthogs. Yeah, that's what
we
they
have those in
Selfridge.
Michigan.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this was right after Desert Storm. Well, we go in there and there's A-10s completely tore apart and stuff, bullet holes all through them. And well, there was one in there that it was actually a pretty big story. It actually made it back from its mission with half a wing, one engine, and yeah, the things they're flying tanks. They're made to take some damage. So, we got to see that aircraft. It was pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen them fly in Michigan, because we're really close to Selfridge.
Yep.
So, we see them, or they buzz by when Michigan football opens up, or the Tigers or something like that.
Yep. And yeah, they're an awesome aircraft. But that kind of, as a kid, I was always interested in.
Yeah.
In
so
fighter
basic training.
Especially.
How long is basic training for Air Force?
6 weeks at the time. I think it's now 8 weeks. They added a couple extra weeks. They added some other stuff because, like for us, we had one day that you went out to the range and qualified on the M16. You had one day where they did what they called the confidence course, which is like, it's what you see in all the movies and that stuff where you're crawling underneath the barbed wire and they're shooting blanks
the fence.
Scaling fences, all that stuff. For the Air Force, that was one day.
Yeah. I heard if you want to join the military, the Air Force is the way to go.
In my opinion, I mean, I am super proud of anybody that decides to serve.
Yeah, any branch.
Some good friends of ours, or my other daughter's boyfriend is just joined the Marines, and I'm super proud of him.
Yep.
It's a choice. It's a choice I couldn't make.
Yep.
But yeah, in my opinion, if kids come to me, whatever they ask, and they say, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining the military. What's your opinion?" Well, my opinion is, you join the Air Force.
Yeah.
Because in the Air Force, there's a lot more opportunities, at least in my opinion, for
advancement.
For advancement, and once you get out. I mean, if you're thinking long-term lifestyle, where can I go to learn a job that I can use when I get out? That's gonna pay me good and that stuff. I mean, My recruiter tried to actually got me thinking down that line, but he tried to get me. He was CE, civil engineer, and he did HVAC stuff
Oh,
in the Air Force.
okay.
And when I actually talked to him after he retired, I mean, he was a recruiter for a while in my hometown, and then he retired, and he started his own HVAC business and does pretty good.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah,
That's
and so he
awesome.
went in the Air Force. He learned a trade,
Yep.
and yeah,
Served his country,
served
did
his
the
country,
trade, and
learned
then
a trade,
came out and
came out, and they paid for
certified.
school. You know,
Wow.
that was the other big thing for me, at least, is that I knew when I joined the Air Force I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't rule it out someday,
Yeah.
and it really helped. Towards the end of my career, I was able to go to school, and then using my GI Bill once I
Right.
retired, I was able to finish up my school.
So, in basic training, did you know that you wanted to be a mechanic for the
Yeah.
airplanes? You knew
Yeah,
that?
I
in
did.
it?
My first choice was actually trying to follow in my dad's footsteps, do jet engine mechanic.
Okay.
Because when I joined the Air Force, I went in what they call open mechanical.
Okay.
So I had high enough scores on my ASVAB test. I could pretty much. They told me you can choose any job you want in the Air Force.
Okay.
These are the jobs that are open. Well, they didn't have any mechanical specific jobs that were open with aircraft. So I went in what's called open mechanical, which that means that in basic training, they come to you and say, okay, now these jobs are open. What do you pick?
Okay.
So when I got into basic, they said, okay, these are the jobs we think that are going to be open. Give us your top three choices. So I chose aircraft or jet engine mechanic. Then I chose crew chief, which is what I ultimately ended up getting for fighter aircraft. And then I chose crew chief for bomber and heavy aircraft like cargo planes.
Okay.
I ended up getting my second choice, fighter aircraft.
Fighter.
And so
So you moved right into that after basic? Or
no,
you had to
I go to
school
tech school. So you go to tech
So
school.
how long is that?
Tech school for us was about 6 months
Okay.
because there's a lot to learn, especially with because
Jet engines.
I went into tech school for F-16s was technically
Okay.
my career field. So you
That
go
was
in
our
and-
dominant war fighter.
yeah,
plane.
one of them. It's our top
Back
single
then.
engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not now.
Even now the F-16 is still
Oh, it's still good?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
F-16s
Because they have the
F-15s
F-22 now,
and the
right?
F-22. Yeah, but the F-22 and the F-35 was ultimately supposed to replace the F-16,
Mm-hmm.
but they're just too expensive.
Okay.
So they're actually talking now about revamping the F-16 and just making a whole new
Is that
run
what
of
Israel
F-16s.
flies? The F-16?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they joined in on the F-35 too.
Program, platform.
Yeah, because the F-35, they call it the Joint Strike Fighter
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of countries jumped in to try and bring the cost down be able to mass
But it
produce
never
them.
got off the ground?
I mean, it did. There's F-35s out there that a few countries have them, but they're just, from what I've read, I've never actually worked the thing. So from what I've read and what I've heard and seen, they're just not cost effective. They're too expensive to maintain. They're expensive to build. And it's just a lot cheaper to revamp some of our older fighters that are still
So when you
good.
got done with your training in the tech school,
Mhm.
you were working on F-16s then?
No, actually, I wasn't. So halfway
Oh.
through tech school, in F-16s, which they call it, it's called your basic fighter training. So we learned on F-16s, but we also learned on some other aircraft and that stuff. Just your general fundamentals and stuff like that of aircraft mechanics,
Okay.
which is your 6-month course. And then so halfway through that course, they came to us and said, when it was time for us to get our assignments after tech school, I actually had orders. My original orders, I was going to go work F-16s in Italy at Aviano Air Base in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
That was like one of my first choices. I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to Europe, going to work fighter aircraft. It was
Yeah.
going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, about halfway through my training, right after those orders came out, a group of us, there was like 4 of us that got pulled and said, nope, your orders are canceled. And we're like, our orders canceled? What happened? What's going on? You're going to Holloman Air Force Base
Where's that at?
in New Mexico.
Okay.
And we're like, Holloman Air Force Base, it's not even listed on here. There's no F-16s at Holloman Air Force Base. And they're like, no, there's no F-16s there. That's where the F-117 stealth fighter is. And it's like, oh, well, what are we going to be doing? We can't tell you that. It's classified.
Wow.
Okay. So,
And that stealth just came out, right? That was a brand new
well,
plane,
it
wasn't it?
it was newer as far as newer to the public.
Because I've seen that plane on Nellis Air Force
Yeah.
Base.
Yeah,
I got a
it's
tour of Nellis. So my second church, well, actually, it was my first church. I had an Air Force commander. I
mhm.
think he was an E8. He was pretty high up,
Yeah.
and he got transitioned out there, and so he called me out there. He got into some legal problems, I guess. Sexual harassment was going through the military, all the branches, really
Yeah.
bad. He got brought up on some charges, so I had to go out there to testify for him, and in a JAG courtroom, which
Okay.
was amazing.
Yeah.
But so I got a tour of Nellis Air Force Base.
Yep.
Got to walk the tarmac and
That's
everything. It was
cool.
so cool, and I got to see that stealth fighter. They have them there.
Yep.
At least they did. I don't know what they
Yeah,
did.
they had a couple of them.
But back then, we're talking how many years ago? When you
Well, this was 96.
so that's
So
fairly
it was
new,
only
wasn't
it was only in the public's eye since what was the Gulf War? 91? Yeah, 91 was the
Oh,
end
they
of the
used
Gulf
it in
War.
Gulf War?
They used it in the Gulf War, but nobody knew until after the Gulf War they finally made it public.
Oh,
It was a classified what they call black aircraft that
yeah,
they flew them out of a secret base in
because it's supposed to be
in
radar
Nevada.
under radar, right?
Yeah.
You can't detect it. Stealth. That's what
Right. Yeah.
right,
So
okay.
basically, the way that the stealth technology works is your radar cross signature, radar hits it and bounces off, comes back to the thing, tells you there's something there.
Right.
Well,
But they
the
don't
radar
know.
cross signature of the F-117 is about that of a B.
Wow. That's
So
incredible.
yeah.
So you just coming out of training in your tech school, and they must have took the top 4 students, I guess. You want to call yourself that, or
Yeah, I
recruits?
mean,
And
at the
sent them
time,
to Mexico to work on
yeah,
this plane.
we went to New Mexico to work on the F-117.
What
and
an
it was just-
honor!
yeah, it was fun. It was awesome. That
Wow.
was what I cut my teeth on. That was my baby. I loved that
Wow.
airplane. I worked it for almost 12 years of my career.
So you were in Mexico for New Mexico for 12 years.
Yeah, off and on. So I was there for a while. I went to Korea for a year, worked F-16s in Korea for a year because Korea, for our career field,
Uh-huh.
it was what they call a remote with no dependents tour. So for a year, and I ended up actually, I got married in '99 to my
In
wife.
New Mexico.
Well, actually,
Were
we
you
got
in
married in Oregon. We went to Oregon, but
But you were
I was
stationed
stationed in New Mexico. Yeah,
Okay. Is that a big Air Force base in
It
New
is.
Mexico?
it is, especially
Massive?
as far as
Bigger than Nellis?
area. Yeah,
Okay.
because I mean, with Holloman Air Force Base, it takes up pretty much the entire center section, I guess you could say, almost of New Mexico,
Okay.
because it butts up with Fort Bliss, which is another Army base that's down there, and they do missile testing throughout
Out in
the
the
desert. And that
desert?
stuff. Yeah. So, and White Sands National Monument, if you ever heard of that, is
Mhm.
right behind the base too.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
yeah, and there's the Alkali Flats that are out there where that was an alternate landing space for the shuttle, was out there as well.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I ended up going to Korea for a year. Actually, my supervisor called me the day before my wedding and said, "Hey, by the way, you just got orders to Korea. You're leaving in 6 weeks." I'm like, "Well, I'm home getting married." He's like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
He's like, "You're leaving in 6 weeks and you can't take your wife with you."
Huh.
Like, oh, so it ended up being 6 months because I had to do some other training and that stuff. So they pushed my orders back, but yeah,
Because the
so
planes are that different that you
yeah,
needed
I had to
extra
go
training.
do hot training down in Georgia on F-16s because I had never done that portion of the training for F-16s.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a 4-week course, I believe.
Is the stealth more complicated to work on than the F-16?
Honestly, between the Stealth, the F-16, the F-22, they're all pretty much the same because you have tech manuals that you go off of, and so if you can read and follow a tech manual, it's the differences come to where like the 16, it being a much smaller airframe, there's tighter clearances, so sometimes it's hard to get your hand up in a spot to get.
Oh, the F-17s.
It's a little bit bigger aircraft
Is it?
than the
Oh.
16.
When I
F-16.
saw it at Nellis, I thought it was kind of small looking.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
I
it's
guess it's
small
because it's a
compared
bat
to-
wing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a dual engine aircraft, whereas the F-16 is a single engine aircraft.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yep.
And same speed, or is the Stealth faster?
Oh no, the Stealth's not fast hardly at all.
It's not.
No, because of wanting to keep it a stealth aircraft, you don't want, for instance, afterburners burning behind the aircraft because then you could see it on infrared.
Oh,
So there's a lot of stuff that went into it that it's still, honestly, I'm not allowed to talk about. There's a lot of
Yeah.
classified stuff that
Yeah.
went into it that.
but it's loaded with rockets, right?
No.
Or
it's
so
pretty
this-
much a bomber.
oh, so the F-17 is a bomber.
The
then.
F-117 it's a fighter. It's got a fighter designation because of its size.
Yeah. Can't hold that many bombs unless they're little ones.
It depends on the ordnance, but most of the time, like we used 2,000-pound bunker busters.
Oh, really?
So laser guided,
Yeah.
and it has its own lasers that it can guide the weapons in. So you don't need somebody on the ground with a laser
Mm-hmm.
lasing the target. It would do itself, and
How many can
Yeah.
it hold?
a
Are you-
couple,
A couple.
2, yeah.
I thought because it's not that big.
No,
I couldn't get close to
no,
it.
it had an internal weapons bay that
Oh, okay,
would
yeah.
open and drop them. And
Okay, yeah. Because when I was at Nellis, they'd only let me get so close to it.
Yeah.
It was still
yeah.
in high top secret.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Even when we retired them in what was it, 08? I think 08 is when we officially retired them because that's when I moved from New Mexico to Langley to go work on the F-22. We were retired 08, 09.
So it's no longer in use then.
No,
So
Not-
the F-22
not officially.
took over.
It's funny because you go on YouTube and stuff, and people see them flying around still all over the place.
Oh, really?
But officially, it's not. It's been retired.
Oh, okay.
So,
So the F-16 and the F-22, the Raptor, is that what
Yep.
it's called? The
Yep.
Raptor F-22? That's what replaced the F-17.
yeah, the F-22 was really a replacement for the F-117. It was supposed to be kind of a dual replacement, F-117 and F-15s.
Okay.
But like I said, they're a lot more expensive than an F-15, and for dogfight aerial stuff, fighter, the F-15 is still a really good airplane. So
Really?
and they're expanding on that. They have like I think the F-15 XL or something like that they made something new that can
Very maneuverable in the sky.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean the F-22 is awesome. The capabilities of it, especially I mean the Navy guys. 'Cause we had a Navy base there in Virginia, down in Oceana Naval Base, which was down in Virginia Beach, probably 45, 50 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
They would go up and our guys would practice with them, dogfight with them and that stuff. And the Navy guys would hate it because as soon as they'd take off from their base, our guys were locking onto them like, "You're dead."
That's funny. So now that you're trained and you're doing that, did you get called to Desert Storm, the war? Were you over there
No, I
working
wasn't.
on the planes?
I wasn't not in Desert Storm. So I actually enlisted after Desert Storm happened.
Oh,
I did go to Kuwait on with the F-117. I went to Kuwait a few times when Saddam Hussein was still in power.
and he went in to take the oil fields.
He would act up and start moving his army down towards Kuwait again.
Yep.
And so they would bring us in, and he'd
Mhm.
back up, and
Yeah.
and that stuff. It was I think they called it Operation Southern Watch. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is I think my first 3 Christmases while I was in the Air Force, I was in Kuwait
Oh.
because he'd always act up around
Mhm.
Thanksgiving, Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
So
But it's a beautiful city, isn't it? Kuwait, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
one
but
I'm
we
thinking
were-
of with all the high rises,
Kuwait's-
or is that
no, you're thinking Abu Dhabi, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah, Kuwait City. I mean, it wasn't bad, but we never saw a city. We never left base.
Right.
We lived in tents.
Oh,
I know.
with air?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking big tents that would house 20 guys.
Oh, okay.
Then you'd have your own little space in it. But yeah, and they had air conditioners
'cause
built into them.
Over 100 degrees there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Even in the wintertime, well, winter for us, it was hot over there.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So what do you think? What did you draw? What was your biggest takeaway from your military life?
um wow. I think the biggest thing that I got from it personally was probably the camaraderie, the the sense of family that you got with
Mm.
your unit,
Yeah.
and um because especially when we would deploy, those that was your family. You'd depend on those guys. I mean,
Mm.
for your life. Those pilots that flew those planes depended on us every day for their life.
Yeah.
If we messed up on, say, an engine change, we forgot to connect one wire or one set of whatever, the jet may still fly, take off, but if that breaks loose or comes, that cannon plug comes off and those wires are done, who knows if he loses control and that aircraft crashes and
In
or
enemy territory or just
yeah,
crashes
enemy
into the sea.
territory.
Yeah.
I mean, or
Wherever.
whatever. I mean, just for instance, FOD, which is foreign object damage, could mean anything from a rock to a screw or something like that. Well, we would do. It would seem crazy to a lot of people, but for instance, a pilot's flying a plane, he drops his pen in the cockpit, and it ends up somewhere under the seat or something like that. We would ground that aircraft until we found that pen and everything associated with that pen. Because if we didn't, let's say we just left it in there. I mean, you're talking immaculately clean inside of an aircraft.
Yeah.
If that pen, let's say, got left underneath there and something happened, that pilot needed to eject. Well, let's say that pen got stuck in the primer mechanism underneath the seat. He goes to eject and it doesn't work. Now he's going down with that aircraft, and that he just lost his life because of a pen.
Wow.
Something as simple as a pen. So
really, it taught you attention to detail. You
a
had
lot
to
of attention
follow
to
the
detail.
checklist.
Yes, you had to follow checklists. You had to. I mean,
Every time. You can't skip over it.
Nope. As a matter of fact, we had quality assurance guys that would come around and check our work and that stuff. And if you weren't doing everything, literally, you had to have the book out open to that, and you would go down step by step and do the job. When you got inspections and stuff like that, you inspect step by step. It tells you everything you need to look at.
Mm.
You don't follow something like that, and it's an aircraft crashes. It's your responsibility. I mean,
Yeah.
It teaches you a lot of responsibility, especially at a young age. I was a 19-year-old kid in charge of a $40 million airplane. And if that airplane crashed, that $40 million aircraft was on me. I mean, that was my debt.
Wow.
So,
and a life.
Yeah, and
potentially a life.
I mean,
yeah.
The closest I ever got to combat was in 99. Right before I got married, we were deployed to Italy. We were bombing Yugoslavia back. It was we called it Operation Noble Anvil. It was when you remember Slobodan Milosevic? He was rising up, genocide, taking out all the Serbs, and so we were over there bombing Yugoslavia, taking out his infrastructure, and I was on the F-117 at the time, stealth fighter. So we're the spearhead of all the operations that are going there. We're going in there to nail everything. Well, one night we had these big concrete hangars we had to put the aircraft in, and we would have to tow them out of the hangar before they get launched out for the day and get them ready. Well, I was actually when you tow out an aircraft, you have somebody in the cockpit just in case the tow bar breaks. You can slam on the brakes so that you can actually use emergency braking on the aircraft and stop the aircraft. I'm sitting in the cockpit, and we were a little late getting jets towed out, and the jet that I'm in, we're towing it out, we're putting it in position, and the pilot who was getting ready to fly that mission comes walking up, and I'm joking around with him, and I say, sir, throw me up your helmet and that stuff. I'll fly this mission for you. I'm already up here. I was just playing with him, and he's like, oh, sure, no problem. But we get him out. I get out. We get him in the aircraft. Launch the aircraft. It's about, I'll just say it was 3 or 4 hour missions that they were flying into Yugoslavia. Well, about the time that, probably about an hour and a half or so before the aircraft are due back, I'm on the phone with Crystal. I'm talking to her, and we're waiting for aircraft to come back. And these guys run through our building, and next thing you know, the commander and the first sergeant run out, and they're like, shut everything down, get off the phones, get out to the flight line now. And we're like, okay, what's going on? We get out to the flight line, and nobody's saying anything. Well, the jets start coming back. My aircraft that I was assigned to for that day comes back, and when you're recovering the aircraft, you have a headset on, and you can plug into the aircraft and talk to the pilot, and help him shut the aircraft down, stuff like that.
Oh,
I plug in, get my headset on. He goes, the first thing he says to me is, "We lost one tonight, boys," and I'm like, "Oh,"
wow.
And my heart just sank, and so everybody's looking around and trying to figure out, okay, well, which aircraft didn't make it back? And it was just, even now it gets me emotional just thinking about it, because
was it a missile that got the airplane?
It was, and it was a lucky shot, because they didn't know they were there, but once bombs started exploding on the ground, they just started shooting everything they could up in the air.
Oh.
And it was it didn't take a direct hit, it took a proximity hit, because a lot of those surface to air missiles, if they get close enough, they'll detonate.
Oh, really? So they're not the heat-seeking type,
right? Well, some of them are. It just depends on what kind of seeker head they have on them. But yeah, so that was pretty rough, and it was actually a rough, I would say 8 hours after that, or actually about 12 hours after that. We found out, okay, it was this pilot that I had joked with about flying his mission. His aircraft was the one that got shot down, and he was still in enemy territory, hiding. And it was about 12 hours later, though, let me back up. About the time that happened, that we found out he was down, next to us on the ramp were a bunch of A-10s from, some of them were Canadian, actually, and then because Canada has some A-10s, but they were from another base. There was some other A-10s there, and about 6 of these A-10s just take off, fully loaded, and then we see a couple of helicopters taking off. Well, they sent pararescue. They sent a Navy SEAL team, and then these A-10s, because they knew exactly where our pilot was. And they went in, and it was about 12 hours after he was shot down that he was back on the base that we were at, that they brought him back.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they had him back, and I've talked to the guy since. I actually I saw him a couple times after that, and he's like, he actually wrote a book about it.
So he didn't retire then. He kept on fighting.
Yeah, he kept flying. He kept flying.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but he said it was
Same
a harrowing
plane?
experience.
Or did he switch planes?
Different planes. With pilots, they tend to have, depending on their qualifications, their ranking, and that stuff, they'll jump units
From a F-17 to like a F-16 or something. They can fly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So
camaraderie is one thing, and dependent on each other is what really you got.
Yeah, you become family, and it's just
And that's kind of what, you know, this series that we're on in church about community and being anchored to
Yeah,
Christ, you know, that we have to rely on each other and especially God to get us through the tough times in our lives.
definitely.
And I think that's so powerful. So as you were going through and how now, how high were you? Do they do E rankings too?
Yeah,
Were you a
I was an E6.
E6?
Yeah,
And there's two more rankings after that, right? Or
three,
three.
seven,
To
eight, nine.
E9,
Yeah,
right? Okay, yeah.
E9 is the highest enlisted rank.
Right.
So, yeah, E6 is about the middle of the road, but you're considered an NCO, a non-commissioned officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have officer ranks that are O1 through 10.
10, yeah. Right.
So, with 10 being
So
the
then you were a crew chief at later on in your career, you became the crew chief of the
yeah, about the
mechanics?
time I made E4, E5, you become what's called a dedicated crew chief. That's
Mhm.
the boss. Your name's top on the aircraft,
Okay.
and it's your aircraft. And then you have usually have a couple of guys below you.
So
that are
you're
your
still wrenching
assistants.
on them, so to speak, or
Still
your
wrench.
guys
Yep.
are wrenching on them?
Yeah, you're still wrenching on them, but you're doing more what they call
Administrative work?
7-level stuff. So you're doing more of the inspecting, or like, for instance, when a job gets done, it's a 2-person process with what they call a Red X condition. So a Red X condition means the aircraft's not flyable. So when we fix a Red X condition in the forms, we have to sign it off, and one of your assistants or one of the younger ranking guys will sign it off, and then you come behind it, check their work,
Hmm.
and you're the one that's signing it, and then you're putting your initial over that Red X saying, hey, this condition's been cleared. So honestly, you have a lot more responsibility,
Yeah.
because you're no longer you're still doing wrenching, doing some of the work, but you're saying, hey, I'm putting my name on this, saying my aircraft's good to go.
Right.
It's ready to fly.
Right.
So
And then your boss would come to you if something was wrong,
yeah,
hold you responsible.
100%.
So as you're getting near retirement, you're an E6 now, and you've almost got 18 years in, or your 18th year. What was that like thinking about not doing mechanical work anymore, on being on bases anymore?
It was a little rough. It was a little rough. I actually went through, towards the end of my career, I went through a lot of stuff with some undiagnosed medical conditions and that stuff that caused me to gain weight, and caused me to also not be able to pass my PT test. So towards the end of my career, I actually ended up working in the tool crib, which was good. I was actually the kind of the boss of the tool crib.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and gave me a little bit of time to transition. But through all that stuff, I actually, my commander actually sent me up for administrative punishment, and I was basically I went almost before like a tribunal, almost like a court martial hearing type thing. It wasn't actually a court martial; it was an administrative trial, but um, they ended up deciding, yeah, you can't pass your PT test. It's time for you to leave the Air Force. You're going to get discharged, administrative discharge. So it would have still been under honorable conditions, but it would have been an administrative discharge. Well, I appealed that process, and it actually went all the way up to the Secretary of the Air Force in Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon.
Wow.
And the Secretary of the Air Force said, okay, well, he's got, at that time it was 17 years or 17 and a half. He's got 2.5 years left. Let's let him retire. And so they
Because
said,
they gave you a medical exemption, didn't they?
They gave me a medical exemption. They gave me a stay. And then right after that happened, with force reduction because of budget constraints and stuff like that, they said, hey, we're looking for volunteers. We're looking for people to volunteer to retire early. So I'm like, well, let me see if I can do this. Let's see if I can get my retirement.
Yeah.
Put in my paperwork, and sure enough, they came back and said, yep, you're good to go. You're retiring.
Wow.
With full benefits. So
Plus a medical retirement too, wasn't it? On top of that,
Well,
because of
no,
diabetes.
I got military retirement with benefits, but then once I got out, I was able to get VA disability
Yeah,
as well because of it.
yeah.
So
Because
yeah,
that's why you started gaining weight. Something was wrong in your
yeah,
body.
yeah. I was actually a type 2 diabetic and was undiagnosed.
You didn't know.
And I also had some issues with my legs. I ended up having surgery on both legs for compartment syndrome, which is normally something that doesn't happen unless you're in an accident or something, or there's trauma to your legs. But I had what they call exercise induced compartment syndrome, where the fascia around your muscles it's not elastic anymore. It doesn't expand.
Okay.
So when you work your muscles and that stuff and they start to expand, the fascia doesn't expand with them and it pinches your nerves and stuff. So like I ran a 10K once while I was working on getting back into shape and losing this weight, or trying to lose this weight. Ran a 10K, and by the time I was done, it felt like I was actually running on my ankles. I
Wow.
couldn't feel my feet were completely numb. Yeah,
Oh.
because the circulation was cut off to my feet and everything because of this compartment syndrome. So that's when it actually got diagnosed. That was part of the stuff I submitted to the Secretary of the Air Force. And he's like, yeah, we see there's some extenuating circumstances. We'll let you retire. So, but yeah, when I started retiring, I mean, through all this, earlier in my Air Force career, I had fought with. As a teenager, I had accepted Christ, but then I had fought with, as a young adult, where my place was with Christ, and I kind of walked away. I mean, I really did. And then, later in my career, I had come back to Christ, and to save my family and that stuff, because especially right there in the middle of walking away from Christ, I had a huge problem with pornography and stuff like that, and it took my wife leaving me twice with the kids and taking everything to realize, okay, something's got to change.
Yeah.
And that's when I came back to Christ, and that's when, I honestly believe that through the end of my Air Force career, had I not given my life back to Christ, I don't think that it would have been the same. I mean, it was through His grace that I was able to retire from the military, and then I retire from the military. I start transitioning, and I start asking, where what's my next step? And at the time, my wife and I were doing a young adult ministry. We were leading that at our house, a young adult life group, and she had taken over the children's ministry at our church there, and I was reluctantly helping her a little bit with that, because I really didn't feel that kids were where I was supposed to be, but she was building these big elaborate sets and stuff like that, and so that was my expertise was being used there.
Yeah.
And then I went on a missions trip with our youth pastor at the time, actually our children's pastor at the time, because she was helping him it was during his transition out. Went on a missions trip because they were going to South Dakota to an Indian reservation, which is where my grandpa grew up, and it was actually a sister reservation. So I'm like, that would be cool. I want to go see this, and I go, and we did a mega sports camp at this missions trip with a BGMC missionary, and I vowed at the end of that, I'm like, never. There's no way, God, that I'm ever doing kids ministry. There's no way. This is ridiculous. Well, that's kind of where God called me.
Never say,
I know,
God,
never
I'm
tell
not
God
doing
never.
that.
Right? So so after I retired, I started going to school full time, and
here you are.
The military, my time in the military afforded me that opportunity to be able to go to school when I was ready to go to school.
Right. Yeah.
When I was ready to be a student, and
right.
Yeah, so now here we are. I got my bachelor's and 2 master's degrees, and I've been a children's pastor, and now a campus pastor, and
Pretty cool, huh? How
Yeah.
God has led you around.
God is just,
It's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah. Well, I want to just thank you as a civilian. Thank you for your service and all that you have done, and the thousands of men and women like you who have served our country. Um, I know we couldn't get into all the details, but being shipped over, when you just got married, on a tour where you couldn't have a spouse. And that
Yeah,
happens a lot to our military
it
people that
does.
I think people that are watching don't realize that there's a lot of separation of families in the military, and there's a lot of hurt because of that. And there's a lot of divorce rate is high in the military, a lot of marital issues because of the strain that is on the marriage and the stress that these men and women who serve our country are under.
Yeah,
And
and I mean those, the wife and the kids, or the husband
yeah,
and the kids, don't necessarily, they didn't make the choice to serve,
no,
but they do.
they
They
do.
serve right along with that
Yeah, they
military
do.
member.
So, on behalf of our church and myself as an American, thank you for
Mm.
all that you've done, Pastor Todd. And sure has been a wonderful pleasure hearing the journey of an airman and, the stories of fixing those aircraft. And, it's so real because, President Trump just sent the B 2 bombers
Yeah,
over to Iran. And those boys, the one woman and all men, one woman was a pilot on one of the B 2s. It was like 30 hours in the cockpit. That's what I heard. 30, the whole
yeah,
time flying. That's a long time,
it
over
is.
24 hours not to get up. And
And what you don't see is all the people on the ground that sent those missions.
yes,
That, for those 37 hours or whatever that they
yep,
were gone,
the
are just
refuelers.
biting
Yeah.
biting
Well,
their
and then you
nails
got
and
airplanes fighters that are protecting them.
yep.
And then you have refueler planes so that they can go nonstop and
Oh
not
yeah.
stop. You have all those people that are involved on the ground, like you said, and in the air for our safety. And
Yep.
what a mission it was. And that's why I wanted to talk to you. It was just fitting that, my time to interview you with all that's been going on. And it was a successful mission. We do have the best Air Force
Oh,
in
we
the
do.
world. By far, no
By
one can
far.
touch us.
Yep.
And it's people like you who make it that way. And so I wanted to thank you personally and thank you for your time today.
Thank
And,
you.
and I know that people are going to find this very interesting. And I hope if you're listening to this broadcast and, that you'll think of veteran for their service, especially this week as we celebrate our country, and its founding fathers with, George Washington and 1776 and all the things, that our independence is because of the great men and women like Todd and his family who have sacrificed for our freedom. So, again, thank you, my friend. And
Yep.
thank you for taking us on a journey. I think people will find this interview very fascinating. I know I did, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So, until we see you next time, happy 4th. And as I always say, keep it real.